Good afternoon, everybody. I'm honored to be co-presenting with Michael Baker, but unfortunately Michael Baker is no longer with us, so maybe he's here in spirit. My presentation should go pretty quick, mainly because we're not that far along in this project yet, so I'm just going to kind of go through what we intend to do and what we've done so far and that sort of thing. It looks like I lucked out, and you may actually be able to see my screen with the cloud cover, so that's good. I structured my presentation in kind of a who, what, where, when format, so starting with the who's, kind of harkening back to the first thing this morning with what Ed said. You know, this was certainly a collaboration, mainly with Carson Water as the project kind of oversight or sponsor, FEMA providing the CTP grant funding, and then Carson City with technical oversight, and then Michael Baker International as the consultant. And this project, Eagle Valley A&B drainage study, is part of the current fiscal year FEMA CTP budget and the current mapping activity statement with Carson Water. So it's just one of a number of projects. Mitch is working on one he talked about this morning that's part of this current effort. So the where, the Eagle Valley watershed is kind of located here in the north central part of Carson City. Hopefully you can see the outline of Carson City here. More specifically, it's in kind of the northeast quadrant of the city itself, and it kind of straddles the Lyon County line there. A little zoomed in view of the watershed. And as you can see, it's pretty close to where we're sitting right now. Here's Highway 50 kind of running right through the south part of the watershed. You'll drive right through it on your way home, more than likely. Here's the airport, and here's the golf courses where the study gets its name from, and here's the county line here. This whole area is basically the whole watershed. The study area is more this area down in here, where we're going to revise the FEMA mapping. So I'll get to that here in a second as well. So the why are we doing this study? As others mentioned earlier today, a lot of the hydrology in the FIS is old. In this particular case, I'm not sure the date of the hydrology, but it's I'm sure as old as anything else out there. And so I think that's the first thing, is revising the hydrology, making sure it's current and per kind of existing state of practice, like Jeff just talked about, that sort of thing. The FIS shows that the watershed at Highway 50 is about 5 square miles and has a 1% annual chance to charge of 1,930 CFS. So maybe there's a chance to lower that as well, using current methodologies. That translates to about 386 cubic feet per second, or cubic feet per second per square mile, or 0.6 cubic feet per second per acre. I tried to kind of see if we could figure out what it typically is, in these watersheds per the studies that Jeff's been working on, and we didn't have time to look that up, but there may be an opportunity to lower that somewhat here. And then also, I don't think the dam on the golf course, on the west side golf course, the golf course A, is taken into consideration as part of the hydrology. Here's my typo for the day. Hopefully it's the only one. I think I rely too much on the little red squigglies to catch my typing mistakes, and that's an actual word. So, and then from a hydraulic standpoint, the reason why we're revising this study is a number of reasons. There's approximate A zones, so we'd like to change those to detailed zones where appropriate. Approximate A zones are problematic for many reasons. Flood insurance rating is one of them. There's structures in the floodway and floodplain, lots of them, so we can refine this to more accurately make that determination. That's a benefit. And for that matter, because we'll be doing this in a 2D modeling methodology, we may eliminate the floodway completely, because 2D, that's one drawback to 2D models. They don't lend themselves to determining floodways very easily. And 2D modeling is obviously a theme here today, and it's really a theme anywhere you go these days in the flood mapping world. And it's just the world we live in now, and this study is no exception, as you'll see when I kind of look when we take a closer look at the study area. And then, well, that's my last bullet point there, that really the flow does truly become two-dimensional in portions of this study area. So a little bit more on the whys. This is kind of speaking to the hydrology and whether there's a potential to lower the Qs. On the left is the soils kind of agglomeration, and on the right, land use. What you're looking at here is the beige area or sandy loam, so areas that we would think would infiltrate a lot of water. The gray areas are what the soil survey classifies as fully developed, so not a lot of opportunities there. The browns are rock outcrop, and then the pinks are like a clay loam or a rocky cobbly loam. So a little higher runoff than the sandy loam, but some infiltration there. Unfortunately, this kind of layout doesn't lend itself well when you look at the land use. Land use here, green is open space for the most part. White is just a conglomeration of all the developed areas, be it residential or commercial or whatnot. And unfortunately, the correlation between the two has the higher infiltration soil types where there's more development and vice versa. So that may mean that the Qs we don't have the opportunity to lower the Qs as much as we could, but that's just the environment that we're dealing with. A little bit more on the whys. This is the effective FEMA floodplain as it stands right now. As you can see, this lighter shaded blue is the approximate A zones. And so there's quite a few homes and structures in the approximate A zones, particularly on the west branch. And then this is the AE zone with floodway down in here. This one in particular is problematic because with the airport improvements, this is no longer the current flow path. This is all a tremendous amount of fill here, and you'll see where the flow path goes right now, but it certainly doesn't do this nearly as much. And then these floodways are problematic because there's not really any defined drainage ways through here for the most part. There are some small sloughs and whatnot, but there's certainly a lot of structures in the floodway. And then this is the Carson River here, so this is the confluence with the Carson River. So what you're looking at here, if you can see it hopefully, is the watershed with some really preliminary Flow 2D results. And the Flow 2D results represent a worst case scenario, because what I did here was I used a single point rainfall value from the upper watershed, no infiltration, no structure, so it's just the grids. And the grids are 25 foot, and then it's using a 10-foot DEM for elevation data. So this is really just to run the model, default in values, and kind of get an idea where the flow paths are and where we start to see two-dimensional flow. And what the pink represents is flow depth a foot and greater. So I truncated the results to just a foot or greater. And the reason for this is to start to define a boundary between a 1D area and a 2D area, because more from a FEMA constraint standpoint. I would love to really do this study in entirely in Flow 2D or in a two-dimensional model, so using the model for hydrology and hydraulics. But FEMA doesn't accept Flow 2D as a hydrology model yet, so what we're stuck with is using HEC HMS in the upper watershed along defined flow paths, and then using the results as inflow hydrographs for a 2D study area, similar to what Jeff just talked about in Douglas County. And in fact, we're going to use pretty much the same exact methodologies that he outlined. And this is an approach that FEMA certainly approved or accepted in the past. And so that's what the point of this model is, just to give you an idea of where that two-dimensional flow starts. And as you can see, it pretty much starts kind of as these canyons outlet onto the east side golf course. That looks very two-dimensional in this area. And then kind of just downstream of the west side golf course on this side of the study area. And certainly down here in the residential area, the developed area, it's very two-dimensional. Here's a little bit zoomed in of the same results with the effective floodplain also on there. And this is to start to get look at a comparison of, or more, I should say, an evaluation of whether the FEMA results are accurate or not. And as you can see, this one, like I mentioned earlier, is pretty much cut off from flow. Flow actually really comes down to this intersection, and then there's some structures here that either route it down this slough here or through this neighborhood here. So even though I don't have the structures in the model yet, which will relieve some of this pawning and these low points upstreams of the roads and whatnot, I do believe this split flow is occurring out there when you drive around and look and see. And then down here, it actually follows pretty closely. It captures that little lobe, which is a low point, some vacant open space, and then this. Over here, it's a mess, right? And that's down through the golf course. So it's probably not a problem that it's a mess, but it's a mess. It doesn't necessarily all follow this flow path. And then this area in particular here will get cleaned up when we put in structures, because there's some big structures that will siphon off a lot of this water. And then also particularly along the upstream side of 50, some other structures that will define these flow paths a lot better. One interesting thing is this flow path right here that is not delineated on the FEMA maps, but is clearly a very defined path for runoff from this kind of southern lobe down here. And so that's something we'll want to take a look at and see that warrants a delineation in that area. This one is probably in our current lighting situation doesn't provide a lot of value, but this is the same thing, just kind of screen back so you can see how many structures are affected by the potential flow paths as they're defined here. There's still quite a few residential structures in here, but less so in the effective mapping. And then quite a few commercial structures over here that are affected, and down in this area as well. All right, so the what? What are we going to do? We're going to revise the hydrology upstream of what I'm defining as the two-dimensional flow area using HEC HMS and some of the methodologies that are relevant in this region based on some of the work that's been done here over the last couple of years. Jeff spoke a lot about that, so looking at green and app parameters and Schneider, hydrograph and that sort of thing, that are these regionally kind of appropriate methodologies. And hopefully, if not lower the Qs, at least have confidence that the Qs are correct. Use a 2D model to redefine or to revise a special flood hazard area in the downstream areas. The intent is to use Flow 2D for this. And then create detailed mapping. So more than likely, mostly zone AE, but possibly some AO or AH zones as well, depending on the results. Eliminate the floodway. I don't know that that's a goal of the project, but it's certainly going to be an outcome if we use a 2D model. And then submit to FEMA as a letter of map revision, or possibly a PMR, and I'll get to that in a bit. Hopefully not, though. So here's a little bit more on the how. This is what I would envision as the upstream HMS area, hydrology area, so inflow hydrographs here and here and here and here into the Flow 2D domain down here. I think the intent would be then to put rainfall on top of the Flow 2D area to represent the local runoff. This area is probably too big just to have inflow hydrographs, and not account for the rain that falls directly on it. That's an approach that FEMA's accepted in the past, even though you're technically using Flow 2D as a hydrology model also, but they seem to accept that approach. One thing to note is I don't think this sub-basin here is necessarily accurate. There's a couple places where there's pipes across 50, and then here, and then one more down here, that will most likely mean that most of this area is actually part of this sub-basin, and there'll be a small portion here that keeps south of West 50. And that's based on the structure that are out there, the pipes under 50. A little bit more on the house. So just a little bit of discussion on lowers versus PMR. And I know Mitch touched on this morning, but basically there's criteria for whether a study should be submitted as a LOMAR versus a PMR. If it's contained on a single panel, then it's LOMAR, for sure, no questions asked. In the 2 to 4 panel range, it depends. Can you fit the revisions on the 11 by 17 or smaller? You can submit as a LOMAR. If not, then it has to go to a PMR. And then anything greater than 4 firm panels is a PMR. And the reason why I put this on here is because a LOMAR, you submit it gets technically reviewed, and then it becomes effective after the appeal period, and you're done. It's maybe not on the maps, but it's official. PMR could take years. Right? Sometimes they sit on the shelf waiting for FEMA funding and whatnot, and so that becomes problematic for studies when you want to see the results become effective. Now, the caveat to this is, well, let me go one more slide and show you. Unfortunately, here's the study area. These are 4 firm panels, so the potential that we're going to impact 4 panels is probably pretty great. So now it becomes a question of, will it fit on 11 by 17 panel? Well, that's yet to be seen. So we're right there teetering on the edge of LOMAR and PMR. But here's the caveat to this, and that is, since I put these slides together a week ago, I've heard that FEMA is taking a new approach to PMRs starting next fiscal year, where we're going to have a bucket of money set aside every fiscal year just for PMRs. PMRs, as soon as they're technically reviewed and approved, they go and the RSC will process them through and put them on the maps. So it will just be a process, an automatic process. So this should mitigate that sitting on the shelf for years issue. They're still going to take longer than a LOMAR, but because they have to actually go on the maps, and that process just generally takes longer. It takes 18 months at minimum. But at least they'll be in the pipeline and be getting processed automatically now. So maybe this isn't such a big issue for this particular study anymore since that news. So the wins. Our current schedule has us completing the study and submitting the technical data to FEMA, the TSDN, sometime in August of this year, late August. And then I based the date when this would be effective on just a kind of estimate of a 6-month LOMAR review process. That may be optimistic, it may not be optimistic. You just never know with that process. I just had a simple one take a year, and Jeff talked about his getting reviewed in 3 months with no comment. So it really just depends on who you get as a reviewer and the backlog and all that sort of stuff. If it went the PMR route, effective date, who knows? But like I said, I put this slide together before I heard this news from FEMA. And then there is a public outreach component of this project, and this is one component of it. And the other component of it would be to actually reach out to the affected residents with the results in a public meetings type setting or whatever Carson Water and Carson City decides is the best format. And really we can do that any time between when we have the technical data prepared and the project date. So we'll just tailor that to fit the project needs. And I think with that, that's it. Before any questions, I do want to kind of build on something that was said this morning and it's been said several times since, is that FEMA, I think it's a new era for FEMA in that the days of them coming into a community and doing mapping without any input, I think, are over. And maybe in large part to do with the Douglas County issues and other issues, but I think we're in an environment now where FEMA really wants to coordinate with the communities. And really, I don't foresee them doing any mapping projects at all in Nevada anytime soon. Everything's going to CTP funding and CTP projects, and that's a good thing for you all. And so just, for anyone out there that is a community and is looking for FEMA funding for a project, here's how you get it. You become a CTP. And I know a lot of you in the room already are, but if you're not in your community, then I would encourage you to do that. And then second, you make sure that the watershed you sit in has been discovered, right? And that's kind of the FEMA process for moving forward and implementing risk map. So CTP, discovery in your watershed. Then there's the next, and this is what I've seen lately, and this is the important part because I think these watersheds have been discovered, is that the next step is then doing a floodplain management, which is specific to your community. So it's taking the discovery process, it's drilling down and saying, okay, here's all the stuff we identified in the watershed. Now for this community, what's important and what do they want to see to become more resilient and to identify risk more? That's the key. And FEMA's doing funding a number of floodplain management plans. So that's the process to get FEMA funding. And that floodplain management plan identifies projects that either FEMA will help sponsor or that the community prioritizes to move forward and to improve the flood risk. So just a little bit more insight into kind of where FEMA's going in this day and age. So with that, questions? Mitch?
I just wanted to let you know that during our study of the phase 2 Carson River work, we did Dave Thompson actually did a balanced hydrograph of Eagle Valley Creek based on the gauge data. So that may preclude your need to do a hydrology model for that watershed.
Huh.
We have a balanced 100-year hydrograph that Dave developed based on statistical analysis at the gauge and then historic watershed patterns. So if you're interested in that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't know there was a gauge on that stream.
This is coming
Downstream of the gauge? Okay. Yeah, I thought it was up at the gauge.
It'd still be interesting to see what you got, for sure.
I think what I hear is the good concept of your plowing all ground. Back in the 80s, and still today, as far as I know, all that drainage goes under a 24-inch culvert, just the size of a pink.
Yeah.
PennDOT, when widening the road from 2 lanes to 4 lanes, was going to put a structure on it. And the city was going to provide drainage to accommodate the east side. And that was never done. And I hope you have better luck and try to get the people that you're going to put 2,000 to 4,000 second feet of water in a 10-year in the subdivision.
That's a good
We
point.
didn't have very much success.
Yeah, that's a good point. You're absolutely right.
Everything is trapped on that 24-inch culvert.
Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. I spent all day out yesterday surveying the structures out there.
And by the way, the Canadians in the creek there have held for 40 years. So
Yeah.
I think they're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of small pipes out there. But the beauty of a 2D model is that we can account for those finite, small effects. So we can put water into a pipe as much as it'll take and route the rest overland and see what the true effect of the system is, and not just the old method of just cross sections across residential areas. So.
Yeah, the problem with Lakeview up there too, trying to somewhat a containment or some sort of abatement, and it was never able to put anything through. Now that Lakeview's even grown more, I don't know what kind of success you're going to have with any kind of abatement.
Yeah, it's definitely a complicated area. There's a lot of pipes, and there's a lot of sloughs, and there's a lot of stuff going every which way.
Yeah, if you're going to touch that 24-inch pipe, you better be careful.
Yeah. Well, and I think the thought is to have a small grid size as we can in the 2D model to try to account for all those subtle features. Hopefully something like a 15-foot grid, maybe even a 10-foot grid. It's a pretty small area, so we'll see, and hopefully we'll get a pretty fine mesh and go from there. Anything else? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Okay, now we're going to hear our final project. This is the Sheckler Shunt and Smelter Creek projects, and Rob Anderson is going to lead us the way.
I don't think it's up yet. Good afternoon. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Rob Anderson. I'm the principal engineer of R.O. Anderson Engineering. I'm humbled to present today in this forum, in this setting, with the distinguished colleagues and the people that you've heard to date, or heard this morning and this afternoon on their various projects. Those of you who know me know that I'm largely an empty suit, and much of the work in our office gets done by others. Shaker Gorla is here with me. He deserves some credit. Stephanie Hicks is in the back. Stephanie has been involved with Carson Watershed Conservancy District in a variety of their projects for the last several years. We're really proud of her efforts. And then also my distinguished colleague and good friend David Thompson is here today. And I want to acknowledge each of those professionals as they've been instrumental in getting us to these projects that I'm going to present to you today. Also wanted to note for you, congratulate Ed and his staff on not only this event, but also their risk mapping project, which the last 3 or 4, perhaps even 5 projects when you count ours, our 2, are originated out of the risk mapping project. Microphone up. Is that better? So these last 4 or 5 projects have originated with the discovery process, and then the risk mapping project that we were fortunate to assist Ed and his staff with. So congratulations to them. Frankly, it's been a lot of years. I've been practicing engineering in Carson Valley for 30 plus years now, and I can tell you that I've not seen this level of collaboration amongst the various counties ever, and I think it's really come together. And today, the educational benefit of today and the very variety of projects and the different level of analysis and techniques that are going into them is really fascinating, starting with Alpine County's watershed project. The variety of work that's being done by each of these firms is commendable and exciting, really. We have 2 projects that we're working on right now for Carson Watershed Conservancy District. The first is related to the Sheckler Shunt, or what we call the Sheckler Shunt. It is, this is the overview of these 2 projects. This is, of course, the Carson River watershed basin, or watershed, various basins that have been identified by others and previously. The City of Fallon, of course, Dayton Valley, Carson Valley. The 2 projects we are working on are, one here's in Churchill County, just downstream of the Carson River Diversion Dam, and then a second one up here in Douglas County on Smelter Creek. 2 different projects, 2 different scopes, actually 2 different approaches to help do floodplain management. In the Sheckler Shunt project, the City of Fallon and unincorporated areas of Churchill County are located downstream of Lahontan Reservoir, as most of us know. The diversion dam, which is a picture here, is actually is located downstream of the Lahontan Dam and actually serves to divert water to the T-line canal, the V-line canal, and then water into the Carson River for irrigation there in Churchill County. The estimated peak flow reaching the diversion dam is about 3,100 cubic feet per second. Of that flow, approximately 150 CFS is diverted down the T-line canal, about 550 down the Carson River, and approximately 600 CFS down V-line canal. The difficulty is in the 100-year event, where does that 3,100 CFS go? And if it's not routed properly, it will adversely affect and certainly inundate Fallon and, again, other areas of Churchill County. We were charged with attempting to identify the feasibility and feasible alternatives for creating a permanent solution to routing some of those flood flows. And when I say permanent solution, I mean to say that in 1997, when those flows hit, Churchill County made a man-made bridge breach of the V-line canal. Essentially, they broke the levee and passed the water right to Sheckler Reservoir. Sheckler Reservoir is located south and east of Fallon, in a largely abandoned area, undeveloped, no structures in the way. But the goal and objective of both the Sub-Conservancy District and Churchill County is to find a permanent solution such that they don't have to go about breaching canals when these events occur. And so that was our charge, has been our charge. We have prepared an initial draft of the report, and then I'm going to tell you that we're in the process of doing a final draft at this time. But this is the layout really of how it works. This is the diversion dam. This is the V-line canal, comes along that, what I would say is the south boundary of the river, the Carson River here. Actually, here's the V-line canal there. And then the T-line canal is there, the dam, and there's Sheckler. This area is largely abandoned. There are some old irrigated, or actually some of them are still irrigated parcels. Used to be owned by Wild Goose, actually a former client of ours. And we helped them with the water rights on these properties. Now these properties are owned by Churchill County. But the objective is again, to find a place where we could take that water on a permanent basis, if necessary, and deliver to Sheckler Reservoir for flood control purposes. Again, in '97, they did breach the canal, the V-line, to move that water. It's not clear, and certainly there's not a lot of evidence as to where that occurred. After making a recent site visit, my guess is it occurred right in here somewhere. That is one of our first identified alternatives. The other alternatives are attempting to avoid the V-line canal because it is an irrigation facility and controlled by Truckee Carson Irrigation District. So the other alternatives that we evaluated looked at various permutations of getting it parallel to the V-line canal. In conversations with Ron Juliff, who is the floodplain or emergency manager for Churchill County, I understand that there is a level of cooperation with the V-line canal. Actually, Ed recently advised me of that too. And so we are now evaluating a fifth alternative that would look to creating a lateral weir at an appropriate location here where the natural topography could carry that water if it reached a certain depth within the canal. That looks to be, from our preliminary investigations, looks to be a feasible alternative and will be at a substantially reduced cost than the initial alternatives identified. Those, our analysis has included collecting the topographic data. Churchill County was instrumental in providing us that data in a GIS format that we could use. We were to identify at least two. We looked at several permutations to at least two. Developed the feasibility level designs for the conveyance facilities, and then our engineer's estimate of probable costs on these. With that, as I mentioned, we have preliminary looked at 4 different alternatives, ranging in estimated probable costs, including engineering and administration, of $7.5 to $10 million. The fifth alternative was listed here a week ago at $3.3 million. Now, if I'd have known that I had the flexibility, where's Ms. Hunt, to submit my materials a week later, that number probably would have been reduced. However, I did not have the authority. Where's that young man from MnDOT? Who, by the way, I yielded a bunch of my time. You guys didn't know that. I yielded a bunch of my time because I'm going to go quicker than he did. So we do think alternative 5, which is a lateral weir structure, a permanent structure built on the side of V-line canal, is likely the most feasible alternative, but we need to finalize that analysis and then get it into the report. Smelter Creek is a little different challenge. Smelter Creek is there in Douglas County, as I showed you earlier, located just upstream, or actually passes through the Ruinstraat subdivision. The Ruinstraat subdivision is probably 300, 350 homes. It's been there a long time. It's a rural subdivision with essentially AC grindings for roads, no developed infrastructure for storm drainage or flood control purposes, and Smelter Creek runs through the north side of it, as you will see. Currently, the 100-year peak flow in the FIS is 1,050 CFS. Interestingly enough, as Mr. House points out, Smelter Creek was one of the 2 primary drainages coming out of the Pine Neck Mountains that was not evaluated in the 2010 FIS update. As a result, it's kind of just remained anonymous there. And so we are working outside that little review process that Mr. House and his companies are going through. But the FIS says that it's 1,050 CFS. The hydrology on this particular stream segment has not been redone since, I think, 1989. So that is, as you'll see, one of our tasks and so forth that we're up to for this sub-conservancy district. The flood flows in Smelter Creek do damage roads. They do actually run through a couple houses, and it creates a significant maintenance problem in a variety of ways for Douglas County. And the floodplain from Smelter Creek extends essentially from Ruinstraw, butts up against Highway 395 south of Gardnerville, and continues all the way to Gardnerville in the Virginia Canal. So it's a significant watershed. This is a picture of the map. The Ruinstraw subdivision, this is Highway 395, again, south of Carson Valley, or south of Minden and Gardnerville. You see it there in the area map. The Zone A here, and shaded X there. There is the channel coming out of the hillside. The depths range from 3 feet. There is an AE zone, and it floods again along the highway there. It does not get back to the Carson River, though, until the intersection of Riverview, Pine Neck Road, or Muller Parkway now in 395. There are, according to our count, 244 parcels in the flood zone are impacted by the flood zone. Here comes the flood. What we wouldn't do for rain, right? Talk about floods.
Now the fun starts.
Yes, here it comes. This exhibit is a previous investigation that our firm had prepared for Douglas County to start identifying and establishing the boundaries of what this study might look like. Again, Dr. Thompson contributed a great deal to this and deserves much of the credit. This particular, this is the inset, the relationship with the subdivision. We identified 2 potential locations for detention facilities. One's a 34-foot high dam, has a storage capacity of about 140 acre feet. The second one is about, a 27-foot high dam and about 150 acre feet of storage capacity. These would serve to reduce the discharge downstream to about 250 CFS, which is a significant reduction, probably a 75% reduction in the flows. There's the stage and storage curves of the proposed, or at least the preliminary identified structures. Then you can see, this again is the crest of the detention, the spillway, and the crest of the dam elevation here, and the capacity at that elevation. And then you can see here the storage relationship between the 100-year event and the 500-year event versus the available storage capacity. That was the preliminary investigation. On behalf of the Sub-Conservancy District now, we are investigating the hydrology to go through and document what the actual discharge would be. We have collected already to date the topography for that. We have sampled for soils, and we're in the process now again of reviewing the hydrology to prepare an updated estimated discharge for the watershed. In addition, we're evaluating the hydraulics downstream of the proposed structures to identify critical choke points, capacity limitations, and for the purpose of trying to set the outlet design discharge value. After that, we will better know obviously what size and structure is best to use to affect this change. This change is 178 parcels removed from the floodplain, which I think is a worthwhile goal. I did note that Rob Palmer pointed out that there's over 1,200 flood insurance policies issued in Douglas County. If this project is implemented and we're successful removing 178, this project alone would remove 15% of that number of parcels that would be required to obtain flood insurance, and that is a good result. With that, that's quick, okay? That's a really quick thumbnail sketch, only because our day is long and I wanted to stay within time. That's not the cool, there's no cows in that picture. However, there are a couple houses which might be more valuable than cows. But actually, I think Stephanie Hicks, who lives in the Ruinstrath area, took this picture of Smelter Creek at one float there. I'm available to answer any questions you have. Mitch? Probably 30 days. Other questions? Very cool. Thank you so much for your time.
Stand the cold, winter snow, or the desert heat that'll melt your soul, or the driving rain of a hurricane. Stand it all, just about anything. I can't stand when I'm falling in love. I go head over heels, not thinking what I should think of. Stand when you turn the lights out. I can't stand when I'm falling in love. I've got to lie down. I can stand my ground, not back down. Stand alone in the middle of a crowd. Stand the pain, I'll take the blame. Take my word, I can stand a change. I can't stand when I'm falling in love. I go head over heels, not thinking what I should think of. I can't stand when you turn the lights out. I can't stand when I'm falling in love. I've got to lie down. I can't stand when I'm falling in love. I go head over heels, not thinking what I should think of. I can't stand when you turn the lights out. I can't stand when I'm falling in love. I've got to lie down. I can't stand when I'm falling in love. I've got to lie down. I'm Canyon White. I'd like to thank Michael Smith for having me here on this wonderful show. I'm going to be doing songs off my current CD, Shadow Shine. All about love and happiness and heartbreak. We go together like summer and suntan, picnics and red ants, closing time and last call. We go together. We love each other like dreamers love to dream. Children love ice cream, sports fans love baseball. We love each other. How lucky can two people be? I love you, baby, you love me. How lucky can two people be? I love you, baby, you love me. We want each other like a child wants attention, a tourist wants directions, a hobo wants a dime. We want each other. We need each other like sundown meets sun up. Your brother needs a haircut. We all need more time. We need each other. How lucky can two people be? I love you and baby you love me. How lucky can two people be? I love you and baby you love me. We go together. Lonely cowboy, far from love. What do you do this for? What you've got is not enough to keep you from my door. A lovely lady waits for you. She keeps your dinner warm. She does what's right, stays home at night, and wants her cowboy home. Cowboy, cowboy, get your story straight. You best go home to the one you love before it gets too late. Now, cowboy, it's sure been fun. No, I'm not one to complain, but I'm sure as hell not the one you love. then it wouldn't be the same. Cowboy, cowboy, get your story straight. You best go home to the one you love before it gets too late. He's on his way, he's going home. I'll be going to sleep. And lovely lady left alone packs her things and leaves. Cowboy, cowboy, get your story straight. You best go home to the one you love before it gets too late. Cowboy, cowboy, get your story straight. You best go home to the one you love before it gets too late. Before it gets too late. Before it gets too late. You want a savior, or a lover, or a martyr, or a warrior, or a stranger. You want the danger, standing on the edge will bring. Considering you want a savior to save you from reality, or a lover, a friend to feel your wildest needs, or a martyr, someone to die for the dream, or a warrior who has yet tasted defeat, or a stranger who doesn't know your history. You want the danger, standing on the edge will bring. Considering you want a savior, or a lover, or a martyr, or a warrior, or a stranger. You want the danger, standing on the edge will bring. Considering be stronger than your past, a little stronger than savior. He sits on the front porch, she opens the screen door. She walks out and sits by his side. She brings him iced tea, his hands on her knee. She puts her head on his shoulder and sighs. Another day together, another day in love. They're luckier than most, the folks they know. They spent another day in love. He's worked hard all his life, she's spent hers as his wife, with 4 boys all grown and well raised. They can look back and laugh, look forward and plan. It's safe to say at the end of the day, another day together, another day in love. They're luckier than most, the folks they know. They spent another day in love. They've both gotten older, but each time he holds her, that familiar old feeling's still there. So he thanks God above him for the woman that loves him. And each night they say a small prayer. Another day together, another day in love. They're luckier than most, the folks they know. They spent another day in love. Another day together, another day in love. They're luckier than most, the folks they know. They spent another day in love. They're luckier than most, the folks they know. But please, Lord, give them another day in love.